For as long as there has been men, and as long as there have been gods, there have been God-men, figures throughout our history that are said to embody the mortal and the divine in a single host, an entity bridging the realm of the living with the realm of the dead, the physical with the ethereal. God-men feature in recorded histories of all man's great civilizations, from the Mayans and Aztecs, the Romans and the Greeks, to modern-day Buddhists and Christians. One people in particular who worshipped their leaders as half man, half god were the ancient Egyptians. Their high priest of every temple, head of government and king of all the land was the pharaoh. The ancient Egyptian pharaohs served as mediators between their people and the gods. Cosmic balance and unity seemed to be at the forefront of the Egyptian belief system, finding a harmony for all things. The people believed that their pharaoh was the incarnation of both the god Horus, the god who defeated the forces of chaos and restored order, and the supreme god Osiris, the first ruler of the first kingdom and god of the dead. The pharaoh was considered supreme ruler of the people, God made flesh. According to Joshua J. Marks' book Pharaoh, the chief responsibility of the pharaoh was to maintain Mayet throughout the land. Mayet was cosmic order and justice, he says, which had been decreed by the gods and needed to be observed in order for people to live the best possible life. Mayet took the form of a goddess and was charged with regulating the stars, seasons, and the actions of both mortals and deities. The Egyptians believed that she continuously prevented the universe from returning to chaos. The universe, the natural world, and the individual were all seen as part of a wider order generated by her. Other god-men include those known as ancient astronauts, extraterrestrial visitors who many believe guided early man. These feature heavily in the beliefs of one of Earth's oldest civilizations, the Mayans. The ancient Maya had a complex pantheon of deities whom they worshipped and offered human sacrifices to. Rulers were believed to be the descendants of the gods. According to Crystalink's online article, Mayan Gods and Goddesses, Mayan creational mythology discusses connections with beings from other realms who came to Earth to seed the planet. A story of extraterrestrial gods who came and made man in their own image. When they first created man, he was perfect, living as long as the gods and having all of their abilities. Fearing their creation, the gods destroyed them. In the next evolution, a lower form of entity was created, human, as he exists today. Within Mayan culture, they have many legends of gods visiting from outer space. As in all creational myths, religions and prophecies, the gods promise to return one day. History has always known god-men. They have been worshipped by different races in different times. Jesus Christ is modern Western civilization's ultimate God-man, God's only son, yet there are similarities between him and others that should be explored. Firstly, Mary, Christ's mother, was pregnant for only 7 months before giving birth, as too was Semele, mother of Dionysus, a Greek godman. Mithra, a godman from Persia, was visited at birth by 3 shepherds, as Christ was visited by wise men. Christ was recorded throughout his life as healing the sick and restoring the dead to life, as too was Asclepius, another Greek godman. Both Christ and Dionysus are said to have celebrated a Last Supper with 12 disciples before death. Dionysus was described as bringing a new religion to the people. He was then plotted against, arrested, and appeared before a political leader. The following concepts appear both in the Gospels and in the myths of many other godmen. The idea that the one true God was their father, believed to literally be true in the cases of Osiris, Dionysus, and Christ. The births of Dionysus, Osiris, and Christ were prophesied by a star in the heavens. Their followers were born again through baptism in water, and they are said to have descended to hell before later ascending to heaven. Beliefs shared are that each was God made flesh and equal to the Father, that he will return in the last of days and will judge the human race at that time. Early Christian leaders attributed the similarities of Christ and other godmen to be a trick of Satan. They believed Satan had made many crucified saviours born of virgins before Jesus in order to discredit Christianity's uniqueness. Though this uniqueness is better challenged in Tom Harper's article Consider the Gospel, Son of God Controversy, in which he draws striking parallels with early Egyptian myth and the story of Christ as we know it. The Christian myths were first related of Horus or Osiris, he says, who were the embodiment of divine goodness, wisdom, truth and purity. Here already was the story of how the divine Son left the courts of heaven and descended to earth as a baby. Yet these men lived millennia apart, invoking the question, when does story and legend become hyperbole and myth? There is another godman still very active in today's culture, named Krishna. There is a stranger link between Christ and this God-man than there is against any other. In fact, it is possible that they may be the same individual. Both observant Jews who had a special relationship to God. Krishna's mission was to provide directions to the kingdom of God. He warned of stumbling blocks along the way. Krishna was said to have been the 8th incarnation of Vishnu. The 9th is Buddha. All of which begs the question, how many historical God-men have there really been? Stories of God-men persist, only in today's society we get them in other forms, mainly as fictitious characters in books, comics and especially films. Enter the superhero or supervillain. Popular culture is saturated with God-men. There are entire genres based on different ways in which humans can gain abilities through genetics, contact with radiation, magic, supernatural lineage and more. According to Emma Larkins, a writer with weirdworm.com, ideas behind the spectral attribution of power are influenced by how we think about deities, or that these characters become godlike when they gain their powers. After all, our thoughts about beings with great power originated in the myths in which we described our deities, and we described our deities based on phenomena that we couldn't explain in any other way. Movie godmen are often extremely powerful, sometimes even unconquerable, with such a rich array of characters, from the distinct classic mythologies and legends of the world to pure flights of fancy. Here is a look at some that have found a place on the big screen. First are the Engineers, from Ridley Scott's 2012 Prometheus. Powerful entities depicted as being much like the deities of the Mayans, extraterrestrial humanoids that spawned life on Earth and guided early man, leaving clues behind of mankind's true origins out in the vastness of space. Next comes Professor Xavier from the X-Men movie franchise, arguably the most powerful mutant or character in the Marvel Universe, a man with the ability to enter and read other people's minds and have them say or do anything he desires. Boosted by his device Cerebro, he is able to reach every mind on Earth, making him omnipotent, giving him godlike status and a huge sense of responsibility. An enduring God-man is the character Kal-El, a perfectly ordinary Kryptonian who, once sent to Earth to guide and watch over mankind, becomes an indestructible hero, Superman. First hitting cinema screens in 1978, impervious to anything but kryptonite, he is hailed as mankind's guardian. One of my favourite godmen from the movie world is Neo from the Matrix franchise, a man who has to die in order to become all he can be, living in two realities, one in which he can do anything imaginable, and one in which he is vulnerable and weak. One depiction of a cinema godman I enjoyed was Jeff Bridges' portrayal of the Maker in 2010's Tron Legacy, directed by Joseph Kosinski. Much like Neo, this character inhabits a digital world, one in which he can bend and break the rules of physics. Portrayed as a calm, zen-like character, Bridges holds a master key which enables him to change the world around him. He is literally the creator of the world in which the story takes place, battling his own creations. Another example of the God-man hero comes from 1995's Powder, directed by Victor Salva, the story of an intelligent boy with remarkable powers, who can cause strange occurrences in electrical objects and control metals. But what makes him godlike is his ability to know the true nature of people and understand them. In the end, he transforms into pure energy, returning to the source. Godmen make interesting villains as well as heroes. My favourites include Ra from 1994's Stargate, directed by Roland Emmerich, in which an evil intergalactic menace commandeers the body of a young boy and rules over a primitive human population, posing as the sun god Ra. The being lives by hopping from one host into the next and makes slaves of those he finds along the way. A human team from Earth find and use an ancient teleportation device to travel to his world and ultimately defeat him. Another favourite Godman villain of mine is found in Zack Snyder's 300 from 2006, in which a self-proclaimed god called Xerxes tries to take control of Sparta by leading a Persian force to Thermopylae in 480 BC. This character believes himself divine and rightful ruler of the world. The most powerful Godman villain I've seen in movie form is the character Ansabar-Nur in Bryan Singer's X-Men Apocalypse 2016. This is a mutant from ancient times that grows in power by taking the abilities of other mutants. An incident leaves him lying dormant for millennia while the world changes into that we know today. Then he wakes and tries to rule it. This is a character that can do anything, and for a while you sympathise with his views that man has lost his way, but he soon becomes a tyrant. We can't list evil godlike figures without mentioning Gozer from 1984's Ghostbusters, directed by Ivan Reitman. She only appears at the end of the movie, but left a lasting impression with her demonic voice and lightning bolts shooting out of her fingertips. The list of movie godmen is long. Anthony Hopkins' Odin Allfather from the Thor movies, Keanu Reeves' Constantine, Liam Neeson's Zeus, a plethora of gods and demigods from Roman and Greek mythology like Hercules, Ares and Poseidon. Movies have replaced the telling of stories through campfire gatherings, but godmen have been a constant feature throughout our evolution. Be them God made into man or man made into God, the result, fact or fiction, old or new, is a bridging of two separate realms that has always sparked and kindled the notion in the minds of mere men that achieving divine status is possible, that the kingdom of God or the gods is knowable. According to the medieval philosopher and theologian Anselm of Canterbury, it is necessary that the God-man preserve the completeness of each nature. It is no less necessary that these two natures be united entire in one person. The word from the mouths of some God-men throughout history are that all mortal men and women have the potential within them to become divine. The notion of the God-man is a well of inspiration that is in no danger of drying up anytime soon. I expect we will see many more incarnations on screen.